Hello, my name is Gregory Khan. I am a poet and web developer based in Aotearoa, New Zealand. And in this video, I'm going to be covering what glass leaves is, where it came from, who it's for, how you use it, and I'll talk a little bit also about what these videos are for. So it's mainly a contextual video. If you want to dive into the specific procedures and get information on those, this is not that video. I would move on to the basic text analysis video, for instance. So I first wrote Glass Leaves now about 8 years ago. At the time, I had finished my university studies. I majored in English and philosophy, and I had my master's in creative writing and poetry. Um, I had also just learned how to code. So, as a writer, I was already a big fan of uh, various proceduralist forms of work. For example, surrealist cut-ups, assemblage, collage, all that, as well as postmodernist, post-structuralist proceduralisms. Also, one of my professors in particular, her name is Lisa Samuels. She was a big proponent of something she called deformative reading practice. Essentially, the idea is that messing with the text, deconstructing it, changing it, transforming it, actually lets you learn a lot about how the original text works. And there's a further underlying argument there that that's also how our brains process text, by doing things to it. The second set of drivers was actually just my friends. I had a couple of good friends who were, what would I call them, DJs, composers, musicians, and they used software like Ableton Live and Logic, software that allowed you to manipulate sound or music signals, add effects, process them in various ways, audio production software. And I remember feeling extremely jealous at the time that writers didn't have anything like that, really. And that's how this all started. So, how it works, it's really, really simple. You start with some input text. Here, I recommend using something between, say, news article length and book chapter length. I think that's the ideal. You can push it and try to go for multiple chapters. You can even try and do a small book. But be warned, it might time out because it's computationally pretty expensive. But don't be scared either. Just try it. If it's too big, just chop it down. So if you don't have a text in mind, I have a little feature here that just loads the first part of the first chapter of Heart of Darkness. So you can just use that if you want to have a play. I'll just demo one procedure here, get noun phrases. So you pick a procedure from the list. You can choose to add more, and you hit process. It can take a little bit because, as I said, it's computationally quite expensive, these procedures. And you'll see that it has harvested, so to speak, the noun phrases from the input text. And that's it. That's how this whole thing works, at least, from a high level. So who is this for? I would say that it's great if you're an English student. You have a text maybe that you're studying or researching, and you want to have a play with it. Like I referred to earlier, maybe you want to do a bit of deformation to understand some of the underlying mechanics. Maybe trying to learn about some of the tricks that the author may be using, spotting some patterns, etc. Or you could be a writer or poet in particular. This is very, very useful for ideation, for generating an initial set of prompts, provocations, surprising lines, surprising phrases, surprising images. And so often how I find myself using it is produce some interesting noisy output, sift through it, and see if I can find anything that stands out to me. An analogy that I like to use here is the spectrum between signal and noise. And often what you have is you produce a bunch of noise from an initial text and you are combing it for signals. Now, I want to mention ChatGPT here because that's a very hot topic at the moment. And if you are a creative practitioner or a student, you're probably wondering what it can do for you. Well, I have to say that this is nothing like ChatGPT. This does not produce finished pieces of writing that you can, submit or publish. Like I was implying just before, what you get is a bunch of raw material that you're going to need to sift through. The analogies that I like to use are like you are sifting or panning for gold, or you are combing a beach for some nice sanded glass or some nice shells or something. Last thing I'll mention is what these videos are going to be for. They're really just documentation videos and instructional videos. My first pass of glass leaves, I learned that writing, having more text to explain how this text manipulator works is probably not the most helpful. And it really does help a lot for someone to be able to actually see a demonstration. So the subsequent videos will be primarily demonstrating the various procedures with a little bit of context, whereas this video is mostly about context. I think that's all I wanted to say. I'm not a YouTuber. I'm not a content creator. So I apologize if these videos are a little bit janky. And yeah, I'm probably not going to put too much effort into editing or polishing these. So yeah, I apologize for some, perhaps at times, the suboptimal flow of these videos. That's all for now. Thanks very much for watching this.